Bad breakup. You've experienced a bad breakup. Should you remain single or should you pursue another relationship? Well, first let's define bad. A bad breakup can mean so many things. I received this question, I started thinking about it at a deeper level. And I thought to myself, well, let me break this down in my own mind and in my own heart, and what experiences have I had with moving from relationship to relationship, and have I had adequate space and time? And luckily, I say luckily because I have a spectrum of experience, I've experienced both. I've experienced a time where I've broken up with a partner and literally within a month or two, 3 months maybe, I've met someone else. Now, I would consider that pretty quick because the nature of the relationship that I had previously to that, the nature of that breakup wasn't a healthy one. I didn't really learn from that breakup. I was immature. I was unfaithful in that relationship. I was disconnected. I wasn't clear in who I was and what I really wanted. So when this question was asked to me, the immediate thing I thought of first was, we need space in between intimate romantic partnerships. We need space because we need time to process, to digest, to feel the grief and the loss of that relationship, to experience the sadness, maybe the anger, the big feelings that come up that need to be moved. Now, if we have the convenient distraction of being in another partnership, what does that generally mean? It means that we now do not focus on our own healing. We are not growing and learning from those patterns that played out in that relationship that caused that relationship to be a volatile or unhealthy breakup, right? And so a bad breakup can mean a breakup that is not amicable. It's not known. There's so much unknown and volatility and intensity and emotion when we break up. That's usually an indication that we've broken up too early and we haven't sustained ourselves long enough in that dynamic in a healthy, connected, conscious way where we can say, hey, we're experiencing some stuff here. Maybe we're not meant to be together, but do we want to work through this stuff? Can we be calm enough? Can we create enough space? Can we seek outside support in order to help us move through this stuff, to move through this pain? Most relationships just revert to old coping strategies, reactive patterns of being. They blow up. We project, we blame, we shame, we hate the other person. We forget about what the learning and the growth opportunity can be. And the easy thing to do is break up. Now, I'm not saying that some relationships should not end. Some relationships, they're not really meant to be. They're meant to be for a season. But in that season, we're also meant to learn and grow. Now, where we can learn and grow also is not just in the relationship. I'm a big believer of conscious, healthy relationships being something that can liberate us, that can free us, that can set us up for massive expansion and can heal the planet, can be the next evolution of what does it mean to be human. And if we do have a breakup, we want to honor that container, the sanctity of what that relationship was. Ask yourself some questions. Who was I in that relationship? Did that relationship bring out the best in me? Did I bring out the best in that person? Did I play out old patterns? Did I behave in ways that were familiar, maybe like my father, like my mother? Was it similar to my childhood? Did I play out the same sort of antics and behavior in this relationship as I did in previous relationships? Having the time to digest that, to feel the unfelt feelings, to forgive, because forgiveness is an inside job. Forgive self, forgive the other. Create space to feel, to be single again, to get to know yourself. Maybe you've been with that person for a year, 2 years, 5 years, 20 years. When you got together, you were a different person now than you were then. The only constant in life is change. And so, can you reflect on who you are and how you've grown? What do you want to bring into the next relationship? What are your highest values? What's the most important thing to you that you're looking for in a partner? What can you give and commit to a partner? These aren't questions that you can just write down and answer immediately. Maybe you can, but you want time to digest. You want to experience life from a new perspective, a new vantage point of just you. Dealing with difficulty and challenge and pain and fears and celebration with just yourself. Without the intensified emotions and hormonal flush of the limerence phase of when we first get together, the honeymoon period. So when this person asked me this question, I immediately went to the importance of space. I immediately went to the importance of not being addicted to being in relationship, to not being addicted to the hormonal phases of being in relationships, to not abdicating our responsibility to be sovereign and self-reflective, to give time for our hearts to heal, to not rush in to numb and avoid, but to rather create space in our lives to reflect and just be. And when will you know when you're ready? You'll know. If there's fear there, like massive fear, then it probably means you're not ready, because you're going to bring that fear into the relationship. If you're still consistently thinking about that person, the relationship, and what could have been, and the regrets and the resentments that you have, and you're charged by that relationship, you have anger, you carry deep sadness, you're going to probably bring that into the relationship in some way or form. And immediately in the beginning, it won't come out because you're on this high, hormonal high. But then it will come out, and it will leak out. And it will leak out in passive-aggressive ways, or through manipulation, or shadow behavior, lying, getting easily agitated, picking on the other person, hating on yourself, low self-worth, hiding, not speaking your truth, not being open and vulnerable, carrying shame and guilt. And it will leak. I've been there, and it fucking hurts. It hurts self and it hurts the other, because then the other starts to panic. Their nervous system starts to panic. We don't just read the world through our physical senses. We read the world through our internal senses as well. The unconscious mind plays a big part in how we process, understand, connect to information, how we feel and what we value. And oftentimes we're not aware of this, but our bodies know. Our bodies keep score. It's a great book, by the way. Not only of traumatic events, but everything that takes place in our lives. And so if we don't fully process and make the unknown known, the unconscious conscious, as best we can, and we don't come into the next relationship feeling more whole within ourselves, we'll bring that codependency, we'll bring that pain and that fear, that anger, those big charged emotions. That's not fair. It's not fair on you, it's not fair on the other person, it's not fair on the container, and the impact that that container, that relationship dynamic, that third entity can make into the world and onto others that experience you. You're going to have your shit. I mean, my beloved and I love my wife deeply. I care for her so deeply. I know she's my person. Do we argue? Yes. Do we have conflict and difference? Yes. Going through it right now, where our hearts are really open, we're really vulnerable, we're saying things that are hurtful, but not out of intention, not because we don't like each other, not because we're trying to hurt the other person, because we're speaking our truth and we're recalibrating the dynamics of our relationship. But I'm telling you, in the past, when this would come up in relationship, I would want to run. I mean, if I have to be really honest, I still say stupid shit that I don't mean now. Like, oh, I'm just going to go back to Australia, then we'll have some space. And I'm trying to be all mature about it, but I'm coming from fear. I'm coming from an old pattern. I've got to check myself. In the past, I wouldn't check myself. Now I can check myself within minutes or seconds. But that's hurtful things to hear. My partner doesn't want to hear that. But if I wasn't certain and clear on who I was, and I brought so much of my old baggage, like too much of it into this relationship, the relationship wouldn't work. We wouldn't move through our stuff. I wouldn't have the clarity of, oh, we're in a deep discussion right now. We're in a painful situation, at least part of it is. And I still want to be here. I never had that before. I never had that because it wasn't even that I would rush from relationship to relationship. I would have maybe sometimes a year, maybe a year and a half, maybe even 2 years, maybe longer. But I wasn't doing the work in between. I wasn't deliberate with my practices in between. I wasn't reflecting on the relationship. I wasn't choosing to learn and grow. I was distracting. Partying, sex, prostitution, pornography, food, whatever, adrenaline. I just wasn't focused. And so I ask you that if you do break up, give your body and your heart and your mind the time and the space, the dignity, the respect, the reverence, and the love that it deserves to heal. Yes, the journey can be deep and tough. It can be painful, but it can be really worth it. And the celebration, the joy and the connection, the intimacy that comes from that with self and with others can be deeply purifying and deeply freeing. And you will learn more about you. It will be deeply revealing. Power and blessings to you. I'll see you soon.